And then I started interviewing to let people know about the book. And coaching hosts started asking, "You're a coach, right?" And then other people, readers said, "You coach, right? You coach?" And I said, "Well, okay, I'll start the coaching business." And that's how it started. That's how it actually started. And people started coming and asking these questions and consultations. And if I can convince them to really work on all the 5 aspects of their lives, we're in a great shape, because everything is important.
And you're right. And speaking of working on the 5 aspects of your life, how do you find time to, well, let me ask it this way. Is there such thing as work-life balance? Hey, Champion Nation. My name is Kashaun Cooper, and I am the host of the Champion Nation podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, can you please do me a favor? It would mean so much to me if you can scroll down and subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes. Also, if you can hit that little like button, comment below. Your comments mean so much to me and our other viewers and listeners. Now let's jump into today's episode. Champion Nation, my name is Kashaun Cooper. I am the host of the Champion Nation podcast. This week, we have a guest that has touched so many industries in her lifetime. Literally, if you're looking for the Jack or the Jill of all trades, look no further, because we have Alexandra.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Alexandra is a holistic coach. She's a nurse, real estate agent, and she also trades options. So she is very, very, very cultured when it comes down to touching different industries. Hey, Alexandra, thank you so much for being a guest on the Champion Nation. How are you doing today?
Oh, great, Kashaun. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be a guest on your podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Alexandra, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Okay, so from the holistic confidence coaching perspective, I do help people regain their confidence by fixing areas in their lives that are out of whack, so to speak, right? Because I myself struggled for over 20 years with very poor self-esteem and low self-confidence. I came to a point in my life when I reversed this. It took several years once I made a decision, and then things got easier and easier and everything was more successful. But in a nutshell, I was a musician for 26 years. I came to the States from Bulgaria on a student visa to earn my master's and doctoral degrees in violin, classical violin. And then in 2008, a year after I had defended my doctorate, I decided to put myself through nursing school because of the economic crisis, and the orchestras started bankrupting left and right and downsizing. It was a very scary time, and musicians were without jobs. So nursing school, and then later on real estate investing. So I'm not a real estate agent, really. I'm a real estate investor. I have 3 rental real estate businesses. So this is what I coach people: health optimization, financial independence, and of course, relationship prioritization, because your relationships are so important in your health decisions, financial decisions, and all other decisions in life.
Absolutely. That sounds like a handful. Let me ask you, when do you have a time? When do you have any time to?
Oh, I do sleep very regularly. I'm a very sound sleeper. It's just time prioritization, and that's where success is very much determined on how you prioritize your time. And sleep obviously is an important part of health and focus and everything. And I cannot live without sleep. I don't function on sleep deprivation. So it's absolutely, I do find time for sleeping as well as everything else I do. That's a good question, though.
I appreciate that. So you are
Bulgaria, yes.
Okay, you're from Bulgaria, Eastern Europe, and you journeyed from Bulgaria to the United States. And let me ask you a question. How does your upbringing as a musician? I'm a musician as well. I play drums. But how does your upbringing as a musician influence your career choices?
Well, I it was the hardest decision to switch to nursing, science, and medicine after 26 years in music, very specialized training with no knowledge about science, let alone medicine. But I was actually leaning on my discipline, work ethic that I had learned while I was a musician, because I was practicing about 9 hours a day. Okay.
Ooh.
And I knew that if I studied as long every day, I would be able to change my profession. That was the good part of being a musician and that education influencing my further career decision. The bad part was that since I had been in music for so long and I wasn't where I wanted to be after 26 years, it created very big doubts in my mind. How can nurses become nurses after 2 to 4 years of training in college? It seemed impossible to me, because you got to understand, I was in college for 11 years, Kashaun, between my bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. That's a long time to be in college. And I needed
Yes.
the further profession had to be in high demand so I could find work anywhere in the world, but not require yet another 11 years in college. So that was a kind of a barrier, mental barrier I had to overcome, and said, if others can do it, I should be able to after 2, 3, or 4 years of education as opposed to 11 years of college education. So that's, it had pros and cons.
Yeah, you know what? Me being a musician, I play drums. You play the violin. That's a string instrument. I play the percussion instrument. And I love strings. I love the strings section of any orchestra. Oh my gosh. I was, prior to our recording, our conversation, I was listening to, Yuruma. And he's one of my favorite classical musicians. And the thing is, when you're talking about a musician, isn't it a different way of thinking? Like, how do you transition that way of thinking as a musician to nursing?
It's hard. It's hard because
Yeah,
they look at you very weird. They call you artsy fartsy, that you're focusing on details that they normally don't focus on. You have to change your entire prioritization process when you're dealing with sick people. And that took several years, and it was challenging. But the musician, it's the detail orientation that helps. You just have to shift which details you choose to focus on when you have somebody in front of you who is either very sick or almost dying. So some things are really
right.
unimportant, and you have to eliminate it from your mind, which would be the details that normally in art would add to your performance, to the way you read a composition that has been interpreted and performed by hundreds of other musicians before you. To make it unique, you have to add your own detail. Well, in medicine and nursing, it's not quite the same, especially when you're a beginner. So this was a big shift. And when you have the 5, 7 to 10 years experience in nursing like I have now, then nursing becomes its own form of art, because you have the unique approach with the patients and you're able to attune to the patient's needs and personality so you can best help them. And that's the art part, but that came way, way after I became much later on, with experience.
You picked nursing. Like, where did that come from? Why didn't you go into, hey, I'm going into a business management, or I'm going into I want to be an attorney, or I want to be in law enforcement? How did you end up at nursing? Was it like, hey, I'm gonna close my eyes and throw a dart at the board and see where it lands, or someone in your family that had some type of exposure to nursing?
So there was a colleague in the Syracuse Symphony Orchestra, a viola player who was also a part-time nurse, and she really inspired me with her example, because she had children. I didn't have children, so I figured, okay, if she could do it, I can do it. But I really, the main thing was I wanted to be useful to society more than I was when I was a musician, and helpful. I knew the demand was high because there weren't too many people who wanted to be nurses, so I understood the profession was extreme. The States to Bulgaria, my parents were petrified. What do you mean nursing? That's one of the hardest professions. Are you crazy? You know how hard it is to come back home after you have lost a patient? And I told them,
Wow.
yes, but I don't feel I'm contributing very much to others with my violin, sitting in the orchestra. And we studied a couple of years of biology in the music school. It was nothing like the regular schools, so it was a touch base with the school. So I figured, okay, so it was pretty scary, but I studied 8 to sometimes 11 hours a day. I read all these
Oh,
textbooks twice before the classes even started to catch up on jargon, vocabulary, parlance in English. So it was very, very good experience and a complete redirection of my attention, and felt like my brain was reborn with all this new knowledge and terminology. It was great, even if it was scary and responsible, and uh, not knowing what to expect.
I'm sure it had to be scary, because if I put a piece of sheet music in front of you right now, are you a quick sight reader? You can look at it right away and just be able to play it. I
Yes.
would imagine, right? All right.
Yes, if you put me next to the performing pianist at a recital, I can turn their pages with no problem if they need me to turn their pages. But you don't forget that.
Right, you don't forget it. It's almost like muscle memory. If someone woke you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can play a piece just like that, even if it's a new piece.
No, that's different.
No,
Playing the instrument is
really,
different, but reading the music, yes. I mean, the saying,
really.
Pablo de Sarasate, the great 19th century violinist, said, if I don't practice a day, I know it. If I don't practice a week, everybody else knows it. So 11 years later, in my case, no. Reading music, yes, I can, but playing the instrument, that will require a whole new retraining. And I stopped in 2011, basically, when I joined the workforce as a full-time registered nurse.
Was playing the violin, was that a passion of yours, or was it hey, it was just a job? I did it well, and I made money doing it.
It was a passion. It became a passion as I was growing up because, see, my parents were musicians. So in Eastern European countries, very often when your parents are musicians, you become a musician. There is not much room for negotiation because they want you to stay out of trouble. They want you to do something valuable. And during socialism in Bulgaria, I mean, being a musician was a big deal, classical musician. You could go many
Yes.
directions and make excellent impression and connections and get great jobs. It grew to be a passion, but the problem was with the self-confidence. And because when I was a kid, I always thought very fast, which didn't necessarily translate in as quick a performance skill build up in my body at my level of maturity. So the way I practiced for many years wasn't as focused as my father would have wanted, for instance. And we had arguments about this many, many times until finally, when I was 20, it really hit me that I had not done a very good job practicing when I developed this horrific stage fright, which I didn't quite have so much before. I mean, you always have a stage anxiety, performance anxiety when you go there, but it really, really became bad in my early 20s and then through my early 30s before I decided to be a nurse. So it really impacted the way I performed on stage as opposed to the way I performed by myself in the practice room. So that's where my competitive level really went down, because there were so many people that got very inspired by the stage. And with me, these occasions were hit or miss. And I accumulated too much bad history along the way with my mindset. And that's what was the big struggle with self-confidence until when I was 32 in 2008, I said, okay, so this needs to change, but it's not going to happen with the violin.
Where do you think that, what do you think that came from? Was it something stemmed from your childhood where the lack of confidence came in, or what was it? If you don't mind sharing.
Well, of course. No, I've shared this in my book too. Before I became a confidence coach, when I wrote the book, I shared that because that was the premise of me writing the book. But it was 90% self-inflicted, really, because I had bullies at school. I was socially awkward as a child. And for one thing, my parents and I lived in Mexico between my age of 3 and 6. So when I came back to Bulgaria at age 6, when they made the mistake to go back, I was speaking Spanish better than Bulgarian. So they put me in kindergarten at 6, a year before I was first grade. And my Bulgarian was with an accent. So, of course, the kids were making fun of me. So that was the first thing that went very bad. Then I had these glasses with thick lenses, which made me look like an idiot, basically. And that was another point of them bullying me, because when I put the glasses when I was 4 years old, I was, I'm going to be like a big girl now. I'm going to be like an adult. Well, it didn't work that way. The kids thought differently. So these things accumulated over the years, and then the social awkwardness. And at age 11, I realized I was not going to be able to be friends with the cool kids in my class. So I decided to use this to my advantage, and I became standoffish and kind of in a way to appreciate my social awkwardness. But I also developed this mindset of expecting the absolute worst in any social situation so I don't get disappointed. Okay. And I always focused on the negative rather than the positive. And that was deliberate. But you grow to believe that, though. It gets out of your control after a couple of years, and then through puberty in early 20s, and you already, before you know it, you're this extremely habitually negative thinking person. And it's a bad trap that you put yourself into intentionally.
Wow. So at what age did you realize that this negative mindset wasn't going to get you far?
30, and it was really felt too late. And then when the financial crisis hit in when I was 32, I had to beat between 40 and 500 people at an audition for a single orchestra spot. So with nursing school, I decided everything, my mindset has to be completely start from scratch, everything from scratch, the new career from scratch, but also the mindset from scratch. Because with the old mindset, I was not going to do well in the new career. There was no way. That much I realized. And that was my starting point, and growing from there. But it took 5 or 6 years to truly accomplish that good, better mindset. And
what antidote did you give yourself to?
I transformed my anxiety. I developed a very strong fear of poverty. That was also intentional. I figured, okay, I have nothing to show for at age 32, even though I came to the States at age 24 with nothing but big hopes, and really, really big hopes, and some sense of entitlement at the time that the wealthy people were supposed to give to, the poor people without. And I couldn't be further from the truth, because I don't deserve anything unless I earn it. So I came to that realization at that time, and I said, I'm going to earn every bit of everything I want, whatever it takes. And the fear of poverty transformed into motivational factor. So that's what I did.
So at what point did you decide to write your book? Was it something that triggered in your nursing career to write you a book, or was it a coaching confidence coaching client that inspired you to write your book? What was it? Was it the defining moment?
Yeah. So in 2020, January of 2020, by then I was already a very successful nurse and real estate investor. So at this point, I can stop working at any point I want, because the investments are really providing excellent. But people started asking questions. It was not just my friends and close relatives or whatever, but like strangers. Okay, so how come you are so busy, but you maintain this amazing physical shape? How do you manage financially so well, since you came here with absolutely nothing? And there were so many Americans who can legally work here, can do anything they want, and they still don't succeed. So how did you do that? How did you do this, that? Many, many questions. And I sat down one day and said, so I have a system which I apply in every aspect of my life, whether it's my health, my spirituality, my relationships, my career, or my finances. And I do make a distinction between career and finances, because you don't always get rich on a certain career unless you learn finances really well to apply how to invest and multiply your cash flow. And I found out that I was really using the same principle in all these 5 aspects of my life. And I said, I have a system. I'm going to write it down in very specific terms with very precise instructions. And that's why the subtitle is a practical guide, because it's not just some, talk points here and there, but actually how I did everything. If anybody can use it, excellent. One person at a time, I can help. And I had mentored several people on acquiring their first and second investment properties too. In addition to the fact that I always educate my patients on health and optimization. That's like a given. A nurse has to be a great educator to her patients, but the investment aspect, I had helped people. So the whole scheme of the book appeared in a matter of 10 minutes. I had a structure.
Wow.
So that's why I knew that I was good with to go with the book, because I had a structure for all these things that really excited me. I was passionate about, and I knew that other people's people were passionate about in different ways. But if you unite all these 5 aspects into a system, so you can elevate each of them continuously and consistently without neglecting any of them, then you have holistic self-confidence.
Hey, I like the title of your book. It really is simple. A holistic approach to self-confidence. If you could pick one chapter in your book, one chapter, that's it. One chapter in your book that you would recommend every reader to read, what will that chapter be and why?
Well, the first chapter, for one thing, of course, the intro in the first chapter, because that's where the person can determine whether this is something that is valuable for them to keep reading or to turn to something else. Because the first chapter is where you tell your story. I mean, I've told the story as briefly as I could, but then I do explain why I have chosen this particular principle of development, holistic self-confidence, and why the 5 aspects. Why is it important to not ignore any of these 5 aspects? And how people make the mistake of fixating on one area of their lives, thinking it's the most their own devices, because people are afraid to approach these bigger problems, and then they invent another problem just to put a face and say, okay, so this is my problem, let's solve this. But actually, look, you have these other things that are preventing you from solving the problem you're talking about. What about those areas, right? So the first chapter summarizes very well all these problems and things that are worthy thinking about before you even approach somebody for coaching, because a book is the least expensive way to get introduced to somebody's coaching approach. And if you do even 80% of what I advise you to do in the book, you won't need my coaching, to be completely honest with you.
Oh, I got it.
Help you as much as possible, rather than be a marketing material, in my opinion, because it never was intended to be a marketing material. And then I started interviewing to let people know about the book, and coaching hosts started asking, "You're a coach, right?" And then other people, readers, said, "You coach, right? You coach?" And I said, "Well, okay, I'll start a coaching business." And that's how it started. That's how it actually started. And people started coming and asking these questions and consultations. And if I can convince them to really work in a great shape, because everything is important.
And you're right. And speaking of working on the 5 aspects of your life, how do you find time to, well, let me ask it this way. Is there a such thing as work-life balance?
No, it doesn't make sense. You strive for abundance in your life. The abundance gives you balance. I mean, everybody has this different understanding of work-life balance. Most people want to just take a break and goof around and do nothing when they're not working. But if you find ways in your so-called free time to learn a new marketable skill, to develop yourself as a person and never fall behind the trends that will keep you young and relevant in a society that's moving so fast right now because of technology, then you have achieved the balance that you're constantly in the game while doing things that are really keep your curiosity and keep you inspired and more knowledgeable and more marketable and just more self-satisfaction to yourself by doing the best things with your time that you possibly can, because time is your most valuable asset.
It sure is.
That's the balance, right? Because once it's gone, you can never get it back. You can even get your health back 99% of the time. You can regain your money back, but time, no. And people are delusional when they think that they're killing time by doing this and this. Time kills us every minute since we were born. So if we don't use it in a way that is provides the balance of keeping us relevant and willing to be in the game at any time, just because we live and we're so great to be alive every day. This is, to me, the best value of life.
Yes.
So work-life balance, this is basically the whining people who think they work too much and they just want to work less. So when I got that message from these people, I abandoned that whole idea of work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's it's easy to be average, right? It's easy to wake up every single day and just do the bare minimum. Right. But the moment you decide to work slightly above average, that's when things get out of whack. That's when, there's just no balance. But you're someone that's passionate about health. You're passionate about fitness. You're passionate about financial independence. And also, just me doing a little bit of studying about you, you're also passionate about martial arts. How in the world do you integrate all of these interests, into your daily life and work?
So the martial arts, that was a 12-year thing in my adult life, because I always wanted to be a martial artist ever since childhood, because they were playing these amazing Chinese movies in Bulgaria during socialism, and I was absolutely fascinated. And that was a dream that never came true because my parents wanted to prioritize on the violin, of course. And if you bring martial arts, for one thing, in Bulgaria, it had to be professional, like from the martial arts department in the sports academy. There weren't these hobby places at every corner that you could go and just sign up for a class. But they were against, because I could hurt my fingers, my hands, and then compromise my violin practice, right? So that was absolutely. I wanted martial arts because I wanted to be able to properly deal with the bullies at my school and to grow my confidence. But as a child, I did not know how to explain that to my parents.
Right.
Nobody could have taught my parents when I was a child, especially my mother. So at 30, I started the Kempo Karate, then I transitioned to Shorin Goju Karate and earned my black belt. And then I delved into Aikido for a while and got to blue belt. But then I got tired of dojo politics and all that stuff and potential joint damage because I was growing older as well. And then that's when I hit the fitness gym like a maniac. At 41, I hit the fitness gym, Kashaun, and I exercise 2.5 hours a day, 4 days a week. Because now I
even now, now,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm turning 48 tomorrow, by the way. And so,
happy birthday!
Thank you. But the martial art discipline and self-control and self-respect, that's what the perseverance with martial arts that I've learned during all these 12 years, it was just amazing at the fitness gym, because now I craft my own workouts without injuring my joints, and I still load myself like a maniac because I'm addicted to exercise. Okay, even though I don't have the time to do it 8 hours like the professional, bodybuilders and all that. I'm not a bodybuilder. I just want so I lift weights. Okay. I lift my own weight up to 100 times, whether to pull-ups or dips or both. And then I do cardio at very high resistance levels from start to finish, 12 miles to, be agile and strong. And it's been great. But martial arts taught me the discipline for exercise, to be honest. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's discipline at its finest. I have not got to that level yet.
I am a healthcare professional. I have to serve as a prime example to my patients if I want to accomplish their health. And most of my colleagues don't think that way. I am a home care nurse, so I go to patients' homes to help them there. And they open the door, and I've heard 3 or 4 times they say, "Oh, how come you're a nurse, but you're not morbidly obese? The hospital was full of those." And I know that's intended to be a compliment. And I tell them, "Guys, thank you for the compliment, but that's really embarrassing. And I know you're right. And I apologize on behalf of my colleagues who don't have the integrity to eat healthy and exercise properly, to give you guys the example." And because the patient is a strange thing. Like my father was a patient. He passed away, but he always pointed to the absolute worst thing he noticed in the healthcare professionals so that he could justify his bad health habits. It's interesting how they just immediately notice the bad things. And I cannot be that type of health professional if I want to have any credibility with myself or my patients.
Absolutely. No, you're right. You are the example. You are the role model for your patients. And typically what people say is, hey, if Alexandra could do that, then guess what? I can do it too. If she's coming in here, not taking care of herself, eating 20 pieces of fried chicken, then guess what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same thing. Anytime I visit, I only speak English. That's it. Our son, he has the app on his phone, his tablet, Duolingo. So he's pretty good with Spanish. I'm not. My Spanish is, I say Español poquito. That's where that's where it stops. That's what I do. I just speak English, and the reason I bring that up because moving from Bulgaria or moving from Mexico to Bulgaria, Bulgaria back to the United States, I know there had to be some cultural integration challenges. It had to be. What were some of the obstacles that you faced when moving to the United States? But most importantly, Alexandra, how did you overcome them?
Like I mentioned, the sense of entitlement was a strong one. That was a big challenge. Somehow, some poor people think that they're entitled when they go into a richer country, better place, and they expect the place to adapt to them rather than them adapt to the place, the better place. Because if you go to a better place, you need to become a better version of yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that sounds disappointing to some people, but if you don't do that, you'll be very disappointed and really disillusioned. Because the good place should not adapt to you. You should adapt to the ways of the good place because that's what makes it a good place to begin with, right? I mean, sorry about the repetition of words, but I just don't know how to say it any more simply and more understandably. That was a big challenge. And then, see, Bulgarians are weird. Bulgarians can be exceptionally lazy, but if we come to an environment that's not lazy, then we pick up and we learn. Okay, so that was another thing I had to improve my English. I had no lack of confidence with my English until I saw that it needed major improvement. So that took several years. When you're in the native speaking environment, huge difference. Great benefit. Other challenges were socialization because, like I said, I was socially awkward. And then to top it all, in America, people socialize in different ways. Then I had to learn about the different groups of people and ethnicities, their social differences, because in Bulgaria, that is not the case so much. We're much more homogenous as, ethnically and culturally. So quite a few challenges. And truly, though, the responsibility and diplomacy. I'm not diplomatic. Poker face has never been my forte, so I was often criticized by my closest friends that you really need to work on that because you're not coming across really well and you won't make other people cooperate with you if you continue with these. It's a work in progress. I really.
Very good. Well, very congratulations to you on that one. Very good. Very good. So, my wife is really, really big on talking to our kids about multiple streams of income. You got to have multiple streams of income. That's what she tends to preach in our house. Anyway, and it sounds like that's what you have. You invest in real estate, you invest in options, and there are definitely specific niches. What drew you? What drew you to these different types of investment strategies? And what advice would you give? What advice would you give someone who's looking to do the same thing?
So I'll ask the first question first. What drew me there? When I saw how my fellow nurses lived, it took about a year to realize that nursing was not everything in terms of financial security because of the high turnover, the whole mythology about job security, even as a nurse. That was very problematic. Many of the nurses weren't ashamed of saying that, they were broke. What do you mean you're broke? You are earning twice my wage because you have seniority. What do you mean you're broke? I just could never comprehend that. And then I found out people just made very poor financial choices. So then I started reading the books of Robert Kiyosaki, who convinced me that if I want to learn financial independence, I should learn from self-made millionaires like himself. And that resonated with me right away because, yes, you have financial advisors who teach in colleges, but they need salaries to make ends meet. So I was already doing that. And that's where the big discrepancy between financial experts and actual millionaires made perfect sense. And it was scary at first, and I have described this in chapter 11 in the book because it was scary and funny at the same time. I started reading his books, and his books are written in a way that anyone pretty much can understand. But that was so
they are easy.
75% of what he wrote made no sense to me. And I got scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never understand that. And then suddenly I hit myself on the head and said, listen here, you idiot. You changed professions from arts to science and medicine. You aced those exams. Now you're practicing professionally what you learned, and you are now afraid of financial jargon. Sit on your butt and learn it and do it, right? So that was the other curve that took 2-3 years. And I purchased my first multifamily property in 2014. Then I purchased several other properties and the multiple streams of income. So you have to understand taxation, Kashaun, right? I'm sure your wife is speaking about that. Yes, because not all streams of income are taxed the same. So there is the earned income, the portfolio income, and the passive income. And you want to really gear your attention towards passive income, which is taxed the least in this country and in many other countries in the world, right? And that's where financial discipline is crucial, because you may save all you want from your income, but then you need to invest it in tangible assets that produce passive income. And there is a lot of misconception online when they say, oh, build passive income with an online business. Selling books online is not a passive income. That is an active income because it involves commissions. It involves, if you have a business that you're selling books through, that is not passive income. But rental income from properties, that is passive income. So your earned income, taxed Social Security and Medicare. Rental income from real estate, not taxed Social Security and Medicare. That's a huge portion of the tax pay, right? And so people need to understand these differences, and when they choose these so-called multiple streams of income, and the most beneficial and rewarding streams of income require more knowledge, more time to learn, and more time to manage. And that's what intimidates many people, and they shy away from these investments, which I think is a mistake. There should be more smaller real estate investors, so we don't allow these horrifically giant corporations to cash buy all the single family homes, and then they determine the market and the rents, and you don't own anything. And you have no choices as far as your living situation. And that's a bad thing to do. So that's why people like Robert Kiyosaki, they want everybody to own some rental real estate so we can balance the market and have the choices financially and not depend on a job and, do what we're told to do, even if ethically we don't agree with our employer and whoever is providing.
So even in this day and time, do you think Robert Kiyosaki's model as far as purchasing a real estate property for rental passive income, is that a thing that is still relevant now, or is it like, hey, we're a little too late on this one because all the big companies and the big cash cows are coming in to purchase everything?
It's the best time to do it. I mean, if you lack the knowledge, learn until the market falls down a little bit, because of course there are these cycles. Real estate goes very expensive, then it goes down, it crashes, go expensive. So you need to know to buy when it's low and sell when it's high. I mean, I personally like to keep. I like to keep because the cash flow is very important to me. But some people invest and then they rent. They take advantage of the cash flow and then they take advantage of the capital gains when they sell. Either one is fine, but it's never too late to start. I mean, this has been going on forever. Even Robert Allen in the 80s wrote these amazing books, Creating Wealth. That's one of my favorite books. I read it 4 times only, But then Kiyosaki followed the same path with his wife, Kim Kiyosaki. It's never too late. Never too late. I mean, every wealthy person has some form of a real estate in their portfolio. And that excludes the house they live in.
Correct.
Every wealthy person.
Correct. So you may have someone that's listening to our conversation right now. They say, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my career and I'm going to move into some different investments like Alexandra did. But I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I just can't do it. I'm okay. And we have those self-imposed limitations that get in our way. Can you share a success story of someone that you have coached or influenced that you have helped them overcome that self-imposed limitation?
Absolutely. I mean, there was actually a former musician peer of mine. We studied together under the same professor in Louisiana State University. She still is a violinist. And arguably, musicians don't make a steady income as nurses do. And she managed with her husband to buy a rental property. I mean, that was their own house, but they managed to buy another house and move into the new house and rent the old they studied. And I told them, guys, this is how you do that. oh, but we don't know if the income is going to suffice. No. These are the steps. This is what you do. You put that property into an LLC so you can write off business expenses. This is how you save on taxes. So I coached them through for a couple of months. And but see, they already had almost made a decision, but they needed somebody to just confirm this is how it's done. This is how I did it. You don't have to do it my way, but I'm a real example in your life, somebody you know. So they were, to the present day, they're very successful. They still have that rental property. Now they're thinking of a second one. Okay, I mean, some people get the money for the down payment a little bit slower, but you can always find a seller who is ready to sell the property without any down payment. And you just start making the rental profit. It might cover the mortgage insurance. I mean, it all depends on how you structure your deal and how long you look around to find the deal that you really want. You got to be patient and knowledgeable. But yeah, they were very successful, and I have several other examples of people who were very hesitant, but then they saw that it was not impossible, especially after I acquired my third property rental. And they said, oh, well, yeah, you really did it. I should be able to do at least one. And I said, if you do one, that's the hardest thing to acquire and to learn to manage and to make profitable. After that, everything else is much easier.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, the first step is always hard. And finish that first project.
That's the way it is with everything.
Yeah, but with real estate, though, even if you have excellent credit score, because my credit score was almost 800 when I started in 2014, but I had never owned real estate property. And the hardest thing was not to find a real estate agent or the maintenance guy. I managed my own, but handyman and all that. But the lenders, I had to call 15 lenders before I got the deal I wanted as far as lending, financing options. And people would have given up with a second call or third call because they don't realize different lenders have access to different financial instruments. Not every lender is the same as the other lender. So you learn that along the way, but that only happens if you don't give up. Because if you give up in the middle, you learn nothing.
You are absolutely right. You will only find out what the rest of the staircase looks like if you take that first step.
Exactly. And if you climb the remaining stairs too.
And climb the remaining ones. You're right about that. We've been together and talking and chatting, Alexandra, for the last 42 minutes. In your own words, what does it mean to you? You've experienced a lot. You've seen a lot. You are a part of a lot. You participate in life. You're not just a spectator. What does it mean to you to be a champion?
To be a champion means to really be happy with every aspect of your life, but also in a way that can contribute to the benefit of other people without compromising yourself too much, right? So you have full control over your life to your best satisfaction spiritually and emotionally and physically and financially, but you also need to find ways to help elevate other people. Even if you're not as famous as people like Tony Robbins, for example, or you don't have to crave the famous part to be willing to help others and make a difference in other people's lives. That's what's important, because there are lots of people that can be helped if they want to be helped, right? So we make that difference. But you have to be willing to share your success, whether it's form of knowledge or education or encouragement to the person, uplifting, nourishing the other person who is down, and you can see that they can do significantly better. And always try to help them one person at a time.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Where could our visitors and, where could our viewers and listeners connect with you?
So I do have a website. It's called holisticselfconfidence.com. US visitors to the website can purchase the paperback copy of the book as well as the ebook. And the ebook is available also on Amazon, Smashwords, Apple Books, and Barnes & Noble. And I have a coaching page there. They can email me at the specified email it's all basically through the website, holisticselfconfidence.com.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Hey, Champion Nation. You know what? I'm speechless. I told you, it's week after week after week. Even if you learn one thing from each episode, by the time the year's over, your life will be revolutionized. Alexandra, she came here. She said, hey, I could have, given up hope. But no, I didn't do that. I went from being a musician to a nurse. I mean, that's the opposite ends of the spectrum. But she did it anyway. And that's what we want to tell you here at the Champion Nation. Guess what? You can do it anyway, just like Alexandra, from Bulgaria to the United States. Hey, Champion Nation, I almost forgot. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We want to hear those comments. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Wonderful day. Hey, Alexandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kashaun. It was really a pleasure connecting with you.
Take care. Bye-bye.